Nice to meet you, bro.
Richie,
Take care.
Take it easy. Good luck with the hair.
Yeah, what's up with my hair? Good luck with the hair. Shut up.
Kramer's here, ladies and gentlemen. Kramer's here.
What the fuck is...
Well, that actually might work, actually.
No, well,
Oh, look at that.
what the fuck? What is going on? Did he just leave?
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Drinks, Jokes, and Storytelling. I'm your host, Mark Riccadonna, and with me, as always,
Richie Byrne and his new hairdo.
and it's a great hairdo. We got a great guest. We're very excited. We're going to bring out Rob Bartlett.
It's good to have you back, Rob. Feel like it's only been a couple of weeks. The great Rob Bartlett is with us today. And we might as well, full disclosure, Mark and I did a show with Rob as our guest 2 weeks ago, right? 2 or 3 weeks ago. What was that? Nobody heard that?
Somebody's
All right.
recording
2 or 3 weeks ago, and it was maybe the best show we've ever done, right, Mark?
It was brilliant.
Because
All
Mark
my
and I
jokes
just sat there and let Rob go for an hour. And and my favorite part of that show was that Rob chose to make you his whipping boy that day instead of me. It was the first time. And it was just, I was feeling so good about everything. And Tony and I were sitting here after the show, and Tony went to play it back, and you and Rob, your voices did not come out for some reason. We heard you fine, but for some reason it did not, the sound did not come out. So it was a complete waste of a show. We did take care of Tony, though. We beat the shit out of him. And
ease up on Tony.
No,
Because you know what? He posts these great videos on Instagram. They're always entertaining, always either funny or touching, or he's got a great eye for that kind of stuff. And two, if you have a problem with him, ask yourself this question: how much you fucking paying him?
well, what do you mean? What video?
For him, the two of you guys be doing this like in an alleyway somewhere, going, "Hey, welcome to Drinks, Jokes, and Storytelling."
Don't think we haven't done that. That's usually how we do our acts. Hey, you want to hear it? What do you mean video? What videos?
So this studio head is having lunch with a talent agent and the commissary, big time studio. And studio head says to the agent, he says, "You ever hear of an actress by the name of Laura Masters?" And the talent agent goes, "Laura, who hasn't heard of her? She is the single most untalented actress I've ever seen in my entire life. And the only reason she got to where she is now is because she's fucked everybody she's ever met. She's like the easiest person. She's a whore. And to be honest with you, she's really not that good looking." And the studio head says, "You know, that's my daughter." And the talent agent goes, "Let me finish."
Let me finish.
There's nothing like a good, yeah, that's it. Repeat the joke. So that's right. Maybe if I say it again, I'll understand what it means.
Mark's going, "Why is she from Finland?" So how are you, Robbo?
It was fine until about 10 minutes ago, and all of a sudden my day took a sharp turn. I was all set to destroy Riccadonna, and then you come in with this hair hat, and
I know I don't know what happened.
I'll
tell you what happened. No, I'll tell you what happened. You were asking me, didn't I look in the mirror? Well, when I left the house, I went out today. I had some errands to run. And one of the errands I was going to run was go to the bank. I had some checks, and I put the checks in my glove compartment. And then I went to the beer distributor. And I had some bottles in the car. So I'm putting the bottles in a bag. I'm going to bring them in and, all that shit. So at one point, I find something. I forget what it was on the floor, and I put it in the glove compartment. So now I go in, I do the bottles, I buy water, I go home, I finish, and I look. I can't find the check. One of the checks is missing. And it was the show I did Saturday night for Paul Anthony.
So it was in your hair?
It was. Tony, hopefully your mic doesn't work today. So I lost the fucking check. So I ran back to the bottle place to see if maybe the story's so bad, Tony's leaving and he has one leg. So So anyway, I don't know. I guess at the bottle place, I was looking outside and the wind was blowing, and I don't know, something happened to my hair.
Did you find the check?
No.
Oh, that sucks.
No. Born to be wild.
I'm sorry.
Wait.
Did you just say something? Oh, yeah, that's a much better look.
Wait, I can't get these on now.
I'm just upset that you didn't have to alter that thing. Why does that was for me. So why is that fitting on your head?
I don't know. Yeah, because I have a huge head.
I guess
Is that your point? That I have a huge head with this bad hair? I look terrible.
All right, well,
Richie.
great, guys. I got to go. I got a gig in December. You are the worst fucking hosts on the planet. I mean, it's just like if you're coming looking like, one of those pencils that you do this and the hair goes. Remember those pencils that you used to have with the crazy hair? And then Riccadonna, he's got a green screen, and somebody's got to tell him it's not supposed to stay green. It's supposed to be behind
it. He's still learning how to use it. He hasn't gotten through all the directions yet.
I'm only on step 3.
What are you doing this from? Like a garage at Enterprise Rent-A-Car?
I might have to. I might have to do it from an Enterprise Rent-A-Car. What, Rich? You all right?
No, I'm overwhelmed at how bad I look.
But now you know what we've been suffering with for the past 15 years.
Oh my God, Richie, I'm glad
that's
that
better now.
Yeah, you look great.
Oh yeah, much better. You look like a rooster that just stuck his dick into an electrical socket.
So I lost the check.
Didn't find it?
No.
Somebody can lend you $50.
I ended up calling. I just called Paul Anthony. It was his show. I don't know. I got it. I didn't know we had to laugh at all of your jokes, Rob.
No.
I thought let me finish was good enough for a good 20 minutes. Then we.
Yeah. Well, somebody's got to say something. Otherwise, it's like it's been the past 17 minutes talking about you.
Speaking of that show, I saw Bob Nelson the other night.
Where?
He was at the show. And Vinnie Mark was on
Performing?
the show. Yeah, he's doing what's their names? Baker and
Scott Baker. Yeah,
he and Scott Baker are doing a 2-man thing.
Yeah, an improv show.
Yeah,
they're great.
Bob and Scott Baker.
Yeah, and
I just saw Scott Baker at a benefit on Sunday.
Did you really?
Yeah, he didn't mention anything about Bobby. I don't think he knew who I was.
Maybe because
not Bob and Scott.
No,
Vinny and
Vinnie
Scott.
Mark and Scott are doing.
Oh, Vinnie Mark. Oh, okay.
So, and I haven't seen Vinny in over 20 years, and
I'm sure you're not missing all that much. I'm sure.
Well, Jody just died. His wife, Jody Weiner. Yeah, about 3 months ago, maybe. So Bob actually stopped in to see Vinny to see how he was doing, which I thought was really sweet of Bob.
Bob's a great guy.
But Bob looked great. He looked great.
Yeah. Well, great. Thanks to us.
Yeah, thanks. You know what he said, Bob? Rob, you know what he said? I go, hey, Bob. He goes, hey, Richie. I go, what are you doing here? He goes, I came to see Vinny, and you. But he didn't mean it as a joke. Like, he actually felt bad that he said that.
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
When did you meet Bob?
I met Bob when I started out at Dixon's
Yeah.
in Massapequa. It was 1970, late 77 or early 78.
Wow.
Richard M. Dixon's White House Inn was this little bar / restaurant. It sat maybe about 100 people. And he was doing a Wednesday night comedy show, talent showcase. It wasn't just comedy, because he had singers and magicians, and then they had weekend shows, but they didn't have weekend shows for the longest time, because when I first did it, I saw an ad in it was like the Long Island Press. That's how long ago it was. And so I was trying to do stand-up. I've been taking this stupid class with this guy named Irving Dalvin that I found in Backstage. And so I went to Dixon's one night. It was a Wednesday night. I went on at like 3:00 in the morning. There were about 80 people on the show and about 12 people in the audience. And so I didn't go back. And then a couple of months later, I'm at the Dalvin thing, and Bobby Collins was one of the people there. And, I was talking about Dixon's. I said, yeah, I'm not, places, no, they're hanging up the rafters now. And so I went back, and that was exactly what happened. And then Bob and I kind of hit it off right off the bat. And we were two of the original Magnificent Seven. That kind of really started Long Island comedy.
Who were the seven?
Seven was Bob, me, Martling, Richie Minervini, Jim Myers, Dave Hawthorne. I'm missing somebody.
Woods?
Bobby Woods. He was the seven.
Wow.
And then we used to alternate Eddie Murphy with Jeff Zabrowski and John Ferrantino. They were like the fill-in eighth. It was like, being the fifth Beatle. It was like the eighth Magnificent Seven.
Wow.
But it was a rotating thing,
I know a lot of those names. There's some of them that I don't. Did you guys, when you guys started doing shows, how different was everybody? Because you and Bob kind of have a similar thing where you do characters and improv with each other and that different kind of stuff. And Jackie's jokes, setup, punch.
Right.
Richie's like a little of everything.
He's like, well, because he's doing everybody else's act. It's funny how that works. You're very versatile.
He meant Minervini.
That's what I said.
Oh, I thought you thought he meant me.
No, not you.
No.
You don't have an act, Byrne. You're trying to get over on your good looks alone, which is why you've never made it to the bigs. It's why you're never going to make it to the majors, Richie. It's just not going to happen. And that hairdo is a perfect example why. If you need a symbol,
but if you
representation of why you've never made it to the bigs, just look in the mirror, take a look at that hair.
You're the Jake Taylor of comedy.
Who?
Jake Taylor.
That's good. Make another fucking obscure reference, Riccadonna. Jesus, Palomino. Why do you do it with him? Seriously, he's dead wood, Richie. And that's kind of ironic, me saying that to you, that he's dead wood.
I said I wanted to find somebody who has less credits in the business than me.
So obscure.
It's fewer credits.
Fewer credits than me. Thank you, fucking professor.
Jesus.
And
so, the seven of us, and we kind of started, comedy. Bobby and I both used suitcases. We were both prop backs at the beginning, but
really?
I used to do props just to like augment the characters. I was always doing characters. Whether it was Dogs at a Cocktail Party or the Tom Carvel bit, or I was always doing things, in a because my background was all in acting. So. And I thought doing stand-up would be the quickest way of getting an acting gig, because at that time, it's when Steve Martin and Robin Williams and Richard Pryor were all making the segue to movies, TV and movies. So,
you weren't in that movie that they made here, right? That
Rider PI.
Yeah.
There was one reason the only reason why I wasn't in that movie.
What?
Self-respect.
I actually used to have, I don't know where I got it. Maybe Joey Cola. I had a VHS of that movie.
Yeah, I know. It never made it to DVD. I'll put it to you that way.
Yeah, it was a VHS.
So, it was a VHS, and
it was horrendous. It was so
worse
bad.
than horrendous. Here's how bad it was. I used to live in Bayside. There used to be a theater on Bell Boulevard. And Gary and I went to see it, but we bought tickets for another movie just so that we weren't going to be supporting financially Ryder PI. Hawthorne was in his glory. He was a star of a major motion picture.
Yeah, he was.
In his head. And Bob rented a limo to go to the premiere at the Hicksville Theater. There were 4 people in the audience to see the show. 2 of them were Bob and Dave Hawthorne. And then there was like a whole bunch of other people who were in it, including Joey Cola, tour de force as the chef.
Yeah, Joey. Bob Woods was in it.
Bob Woods was in it. The late great Bob Woods.
Minervini.
Yeah.
Howard Stern.
Yeah.
Howard Stern was actually funny.
John Mulrooney. Yeah, well,
in that.
It was awful. I'll tell you about it was. I saw it once, and 3 people walked out on it. 3 people walked out on it, and I saw it on a plane. So it was really fucking bad.
Wait, I'm going to do Riccadonna. 3 people saw it on a plane.
He's got you nailed, Mark. He has got you nailed. He's got your number, pal.
Nailed.
Really, Mark is a fascinating conversationalist. I haven't seen him in a couple of weeks, and he says, "Yeah, just before I logged on, I had to deal with my dishwasher sprung a leak. I could have gone all day and not really missed that comment. Just."
I thought we were friends.
Yeah, we are friends. But, why would I give a shit about your fucking dishwasher? And then he picks up his new dog to try and tug on the heartstrings. Picks up his new dog to make me feel bad. This adorable new dog named Happy. By the way, really stretching that creative muscle of yours, coming up with Happy for a dog. Why wouldn't he? He can lick his own balls. I mean...
Oh, those fucking 7-year-olds, they're not well read yet, so they just go with.
As long as the kids, that's it. Blame it on the kids. What a great dad!
His other dog's name is Biff.
I blame my career on him. So
your wife catches you cheating on you. What are you going to do? Blame the kid? He made me do it. All right, is this a Jackie Gleason thing where it's the coffee cup but there's really scotch in there? Is that what you're doing?
No, it's a Scotch cup. People think there's coffee in it.
Is it? I mean, it's 20 after 1. You're 3 hours late. Normally you kick around 11, don't you?
Oh, adorable. You think it's my first.
You know what I saw recently? Speaking of Jackie Gleason, the episode where he apologized to the audience for the game show. Have you ever seen it? You know the story? He had a game show, and the first week of the show, it was a weekly show, and he hosted it, and it completely bombed. It bombed. God, I can't think of the name of the show. And he came on the next week and did a half an hour apologizing for how bad the show was. Who does that? What kind? And he was hysterically funny. And that was the whole show. Was him sitting there, no set, nothing, just talking about how bad the show is. And he said, "I promise I'll never put it on again." And that was it. They never did the show again.
Joey Cola used to do the same thing when he would do the crowd warm up for Rosie. He would apologize for the show before it even started.
You're in the picture.
You're in the picture.
I don't want you. I just want people to merge. I just want people to merge.
My favorite was go ahead. Remember the woman in the South with the letting everyone go ahead of her, and then he did the woman from New York and he used to tease his hair, and that was very funny, man.
It was great. Yeah.
What are you doing? You're such an asshole. You're such an asshole. He's off touring with the Sopranos.
I know.
I love that. I'm the friggin' comic who was in the Sopranos, and he gets the big bucks touring with them. Not bitter or anything.
Cola's not his real name.
It's close.
Well, he changed the spelling of it because he thought he was going to be blackballed because it sounded too German and there were too many Jews in show business.
Is that true?
That's what he told me.
What's
Come
his
on.
real last name? Hitler?
Well,
Yes.
no, it's Cola, but it's Cola, but it's spelled the German way.
It's
It's
Borman.
like cola, like Pepsi.
It's like the
Kohler,
toilets.
yes,
Cola, Kohler, I think it is.
the faucet. We prefer to say faucet.
Well, this toilet
Associate
too.
Joey Cola with the toilet.
We saved that for the Riccadonna.
Yeah,
I got to go to the Riccadonna.
he was on some, I don't know if it was Facebook, whatever it is. He did this long thing where he's being interviewed with somebody, and he went on and on and on about how Richie Minervini was the greatest person and the funniest guy and how much he's done for him, whatever. And every time I'd see Joey, he'd say, "You're the reason why I'm doing comedy." So after this whole thing with Minervini, I was like, Joey, I don't know the club. Is that why? I mean, is that the reason why? Is it you wanted to solidify your spot at the East Side? I mean,
I'm the reason Joey Cola got on late
Kelly
night.
Clarkson?
Jimmy Fallon.
Really?
Yes. Do you want to hear the story?
Sure.
Yes.
I have an hour and a half.
No, the Jimmy Fallon used to shoot across the hall from the Dr. Oz show.
Mhm.
And when Dr. Oz show was beginning, they called Joey, and Joey recommended me. So he brought me in the first day, and he was going to do the first show. I was going to do the second show. And Fallon saw him in the hall with me and went berserk and was like, "You got to, I haven't seen you in years. How are you? You got to do my show." And I stood there going, and a month later, Joey was on Jimmy Fallon's show, and I was not.
That's like when Fort Lauderdale comic strip, I was there with Eddie, and it was the first time Eddie was on the road, and Ronnie Dangerfield had a condo somewhere close, and he used to stop in at the strip every once in a while to try out material. And it was right after Caddyshack had hit, and he was like the new best thing in the world, and so he'd stop in there whenever he had a Carson shot coming up to try out material. And he'd show up in, the two-piece, the velour shorts and short sleeve shirt set, with the tan, and he'd do his act, and the crowd would go crazy. And so Eddie says, and he wanted me to like sit in and then come out to the bar, and then he would go over each line. What do you think of this? What do you think of that? And I'm thinking, you're asking me? It was like,
Wow.
it was really, really cool. And so Eddie says, Rodney, you got to see Mac, man. You got to see Mac. Yeah, kid, yeah. So he says, I said, yeah, do me a favor. Go in and watch his act for me. So Rodney comes in, and Eddie goes up and does his 10 minutes of material, and then his tribute to Richard Pryor. And then comes out, and of course he's filthy. And he comes out and he goes, Rodney, man, what'd you think? What'd you think? And Rodney Dangerfield says, kid, you're funny, but where you going to go with it? 2 weeks later, he had his first audition for Saturday Night Live.
You were there? Because Eddie
the one who told him they were looking for somebody.
I've seen Eddie Murphy tell that story, and then he said that like a year later they were at the Oscars, and he was in the bathroom at the stall, and Rodney came up next to him and turned over, looked at him, and went, "Who knew?"
It was the night before we went down to Fort Lauderdale. Nelson was doing a Merv Griffin show. Merv used to come to the East Coast, and he would do like a week or 2 weeks worth of shows from Lincoln Center. And Bobby was booked. He was one of the first one of us to be signed to an agent. He was APA, which he got because he was in the New York Big Laugh Off. He took my spot because I couldn't get off from work because I got switched to nights. I was
Plus he was in Rider PI.
A janitor / security guard, and so he's doing Merv Griffin, and it was Minervini, me, and a couple other people were in the green room, and his agent comes in and says, gives him the the Rod Steiger, sorry, kid, it's not, it's not your night. He was getting bumped. And by the way, he says, you guys know any black comics? They're looking for a black comedian for Saturday Night Live. The guy that they hired is illiterate. He doesn't know how to read, and he couldn't read scripts. And that was Charlie Barnett.
Charlie Barnett,
brilliant street performer. Brilliant. Yeah. And Bob turns to me and he goes, "Don't you dare tell Eddie," because at that point we were doing the identical triplets, the three of us, and it was, we would do everything together. And Nelson just could not deal with the fact that Eddie was going to be getting, inside track on Saturday Night Live before he or I did. And so we're on the plane, and I told Eddie, and we were on the ground maybe 45 seconds. I'm waiting for the luggage, and he's at the payphone calling Richie Tinkin and Bob Wax, the comic shop. You guys got to get me an audition Saturday Night Live. And they did. And that's how they ended up managing him. I guess they said, well, we'll get you there, but if anything happens, we're going to manage it. And they strung him along the entire summer. They were hemming and hawing. He kept going in. He'd come over my house and he'd sit at the kitchen table and he would just pour his heart out. And my mother would say, if it's meant to be, it's meant to be. And she'd be like, trying to make him feel better about it, and his parents were giving him a hard time. He was working in a shoe store at the Roosevelt Field Mall. He just, and he wanted it more than anything else. And, and he deserved it, and he knew he deserved it. And finally they brought him out as a featured player.
Yeah. That was when they started that. So you were there for all that. I forgot that you'd be there for all that. They treated him like shit the whole first season.
They were horrible. But, although the writers really liked him. And then once he got in with the right writers and they knew what he could do, then it was clear, that they had obviously made a mistake by not featuring him earlier on or making him a primetime player.
Yeah. It was
the first time I saw him at Dixon's. I thought to myself, this kid is going to be huge.
Really?
He'd be huge. You could just tell. He just had that factor. I mean, just naturally funny, really, really talented, great actor, and just amazing, and you just knew. You just knew he was going to make it. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Because that year, my brother and my best friend went to the prom, and they went to the comic strip after the prom. And the next day I said, how was the prom? And they were like, forget the prom. They were like, you at the comic strip was unbelievable. And they said, there was this black kid there. And they kept going, he's our age. He's our age. Like they couldn't believe it. And they said, he was so funny. He's going to be on Saturday Night Live this fall. And it was Eddie.
Really?
Thanks, Rob.
Great story.
Who else was on the show, the comic strip?
Yeah, what did they do after they went to the show? Did they get late?
Well, we can fix that in later. Right?
In post. Tony's going to fix all this in post.
Thank you, Tony.
Edit them out, Tony. Can you just edit them out and just have me?
Welcome to hour. Welcome to the Rob Bartlett Hour.
That's right. That's right. As well it should be for all you guys are contributing to this thing.
So,
you all right, Rich?
I got to be honest, Mark. The last time he was on, he did all the talking. So I think we're both expecting
because somebody has to fill in the blanks. I mean, there's these gaping pauses where, I'm waiting for a question. I'm waiting for somebody to say something that's interesting. I'm waiting for you to lead me into something. It's just you're the worst hosts I've ever encountered in my life. Absolute worst.
I can't. It's the hair. It's fucking me up today. I'm sorry. Every time I look up to talk to you, I see my hair.
Host. And I did the Joe Franklin show 3 times, and I know from bad hosts. Actually, he was
talk about what was that like?
He was an amazing host. I did it once. There was a woman. I don't know if she's still alive. She was 108 back then, who played the musical Glasses. That was her thing. She had like this set of glasses.
Yeah, I remember her.
Glasses, and she did a record. She did a record of Christmas songs that Gary Grant, my manager, arranged. He did all the arrangements, and then he managed her and got her on Joe Franklin. And of course, part of the deal was they had to take me as well. And so I was on with Gloria Parker. And a guy, I forget his name, but he was the Holocaust poet. He was a guy who had written poetry when he was in Treblinka or Dakar, one of those as a kid. He'd written stuff like on toilet paper, whatever it was.
Not Victor Franklin, was it?
No. It was, what's that?
Frankel.
Victor Franklin or Frankel?
No, it was Joe Franklin. Joe Franklin was the name of the show, Mark. And so I get up, of course, I'm the low man on the totem pole. I get up, I do, dogs at a cocktail party, whatever 10 minutes I did. And there's no audience, but I'm making the cameraman laugh, so I'm doing good. And then Gloria Parker goes on and she plays, "Oh Come All Ye Faithful" on the musical glasses. And then Joe had this thing where he would try to get everybody involved together. He tried to incorporate everybody. And he would get, like, you could be on a show with Liza Minnelli and Peggy Lee and some guy who owned a deli in Brooklyn and some old guy who saved string. This was a typical Joe Franklin show. And he would say, "We're going to go see Lyle at the Palace, my friends. And then we're going to go see Peggy Lee at the Carlisle. And then we're going to go to Ed Meneman's Pastrami King. And maybe we'll get some string and we'll give it to you." He would always, try to incorporate everybody. And so says, "Rob Bartlett, my friends, Rob Bartlett, funny man, Rob Bartlett, tell me, what did you think of Gloria Parker, the musical glasses?" And I said, "It's really great." I said, "But I noticed some dogs have shown up when she hit the high notes." She was not happy with me for that. She was really, and so Gloria Parker, what did you think of her? Rob Bartlett, my friend? She goes, "It didn't really, I wasn't that impressed." And so then he goes to, "We'll be right back, my friends, after this message from Cot Soda and Joseph Speakerman, 16 varieties of ethnic breads," with whatever this guy's name was, Morris Handelman, the Holocaust poet. He comes out, and you get on the chair, and then you bump onto the couch, and then he sits next to Joe, and so Gloria's on my left, I'm on her right, and there's like another spot because there's going to be 4 guests, and he reads these poems, and one is more heartbreaking and horrifying than the next, and everyone is like weeping. They're just so powerful. And there, the Holocaust poet, my friends, reminding us of a time that we all need to remember, although we'd rather forget. We'll be right back after this message from Joseph Speakerman, 16 varieties of ethnic breads, with Hannibal the Clown. And I look at the cameraman, and the cameraman looks at me and he goes, so Hannibal is this woman, birthday party clown. She's in the full puffy suit, the big shoes, the hat. And on her clown suit, she has bells, a whole bunch of different kinds of bells. She has bicycle bells and the little school bells, and she's got, these little jingle bells, and she's got one of those horns from a bike, bike horn, one of those. And she does this pantomime. Her act is she does this pantomime about a little kid losing a balloon at the fair. Doesn't speak. She just uses the ding ding ding. That's the whole thing. She uses the horn to represent her. She's talking to the guy. Ding 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 ding. So she comes over and sits down, and he says, "Hannibal the Clown, my friends. Hannibal, what did you think of Rob Bartlett, funny man Rob Bartlett?" And Hannibal goes, "And what did you think of Gloria Parker, the musical glasses at Christmas time? And what did you think about Morris Hanneman, the Holocaust poet?" And she squeezes the bulb and the bicycle horn really gently and slowly. So it goes, and she goes, I turn to the camera guy, and I'm so glad I'm on the end part of the couch, because I had to turn around because I start to lose it. I can't. And the cameraman's starting to laugh, and the two of us, I'm like coughing, and I can't. One of the more amazing things. One of the more amazing things.
Such a funny sketch.
It's gotta be on YouTube somewhere.
I hope, yeah.
It's gotta be somewhere.
I would hope so.
We have to show it. It's so fucking funny.
Oh my God. It was just one of those moments,
If you're too young to remember Joe Franklin, that's a normal Joe Franklin show.
It was a normal Joe Franklin show. I mean, Spinal Tap was on Joe Franklin. Aerosmith. Was it Aerosmith? No, it wasn't Aerosmith. It was what's that? Angel is my centerfold.
Jay Giles.
Jay Giles was one of the last acts
Ugh.
on the Joe Franklin show, and he had
Ugh.
an
God.
office above what used to be a porno theater. Now it's the Hard Rock in Times Square. And he had an office that was literally 4x4, and floor to ceiling was stacked with newspapers and magazines, and they were all clips. It was like a rat's nest. He was like a pack rat. And he would say, "Did you ever hear of Billy Gleason?" You'd have to, meet
Who
him.
had that? Whose
Joe
office?
Franklin. Joe Franklin.
Really?
Because he used to shoot the show in this little studio above this porn theater, and he's, you had to see him before you did the show. You do like a little bit of a pre-interview, whatever. Rob Bartlett, my friend's going to be a big star, big star. Rob, what do you think of when I say the words Billy Gleason? I said, it was a great vaudeville comic. Actually had played the porno theater when it was a vaudeville house. And he gets up and he walks over to this stack, like floor to ceiling of newspaper things, and he pulls two of them apart and he slides out this one little sheet, and it's a clipping from Variety. It's a review of Billy Gleason from like 1930 something. He knew where everything was in that office.
Wow.
Unless it was a setup, unless he said that to everybody and just knew what that one clip was.
Yeah, maybe.
It was amazing. It was really.
I
amazing.
do remember that theater.
He was an incredible. Yeah, it's a Hard Rock now.
Yeah.
That's where you used to buy your raincoats.
That's actually that's where I met Pee Wee Herman. Too soon. Go back to what earlier. What were you ever considered for at that time for Saturday? Why weren't you for Saturday Night Live? You and Nelson. Like, I would think you guys would
before either one of us. Neither one of us had any management at the time. I think they thought Nelson. I think his agent might have got somebody to come in to look at him, and they thought he was too much of a clown, with the props and all that kind of stuff. Because Bobby's always fancied himself as a clown. I mean, he's got a clown character that he does that he's been doing for years and years and years and years. Captain Boomer, and he's amazing at it. He actually went, I think, or applied to Ringling Brothers Clown College before he started doing Dixon's. So that was kind of a dream of his. And me, I didn't have any representation. I had no in. I had no way of. Eddie brought me in to be a writer.
Oh, really?
It was when Dick Ebersol had taken over for Gene Domanian, because
what a year!
What a year that was.
Oh. Charlie Rocket, rest in peace.
I brought in some stuff, and he passed. He passed on it. And I remember meeting him a couple of years later through Imus, and
Dick Ebersol.
Dick Ebersol.
We're talking, right.
I said, I don't remember you, but I remember passing you. Okay, great. Thanks, Dick. But yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Man.
There's that silence again.
I mean, can you guys pick up the fucking slack? I can't talk the entire time. It's not my goddamn show.
Well,
Take
my
some
problem is
responsibility for this thing that you're throwing out to everybody.
Every once in a while, it just starts going. So I don't know when to jump in because I don't know if somebody's talking or.
It's our fault.
It's not your fault. That's why I'm not talking.
I thought when you did that, but I thought you were imitating your sink that's broken.
I'm doing Vinny Nardiello.
Do you remember your first paid gig? Mark, do you remember your first paid gig, Mark?
I'm
I
sorry.
haven't gotten one yet.
I was doing my Frozen screen. It was an anniversary party in Brooklyn. Somebody had seen me, I guess, at Dixon's, and they wanted me to do this. It was a 50th anniversary, I think, and this was like the grandson of whoever it was, and he was a pot dealer, And so he actually provided the transportation. He and his girlfriend picked me up, but they had to stop at his apartment in Queens first. And he was about 800 pounds of marijuana in the living room and a scale. And I guess he was making up dime bags and nickel bags, whatever. And yeah, I got $100. And I did my act. And there was a band there. It was like almost like a wedding gig. And I remember the guy, the front man for the wedding band, saying, "Wow, it's really tough to do what you do. Make me laugh. That's got to be a hard thing." And then, we're sitting eating and whatever. And he was, "Wow, it's got to be a hard thing you do. Make me laugh." He must have said it about 15 times. It was kind of like being on the show. It was just like somebody who just had a one-track mind and would ask me a question and then expect you to say something around it,
It's so weird that he would say, "Make me laugh," though.
Yeah.
No,
Not
he was saying it as though like that's what the audience was saying. He wasn't indicating I had to make him laugh.
Right. But still.
But I remember them doing "The Sheik of Araby" was one of their big songs in the night. And their little hook was they would jump in when the lead singer would say, "I'm the Sheik of Araby," and then the rest of the band would go, "Without my pants on." That was the big hook there. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the comedy stylings of Rob Bartlett. I once did a show. Talking about gigs. I once did a show. I used to do this one-man thing at Club 1407 in the city. It was the basement of a luncheon club in the Garment District, and Gary and I four-walled it on weekends because it was closed on weekends. And so Friday and Saturday nights, I would do this one-man show. It's how I kind of worked up to the show that I eventually brought to Broadway. And they used to do like group sales whenever they could. And they brought in a group of deaf people, and they had an interpreter. And the interpreter signed my act as I was doing it. And it was a really interesting experience. I mean, I've done a couple of Broadway shows where they do that once, a year, every once in a while. They'll bring in an interpreter to do, to interpret the show. And so he was doing my act, and it was really weird timing wise because I would do a bit or whatever, and I'd get a laugh from the hearing part of the audience, and there were like be 2 or 3 seconds before he was done signing, and then I would get a laugh from the deaf people. And at the end of the show, all the deaf people were lined up to get the interpreter's autograph because they thought he was the killer, and I was the interpreter for the hearing people.
He killed.
Did the interpreter do like, "My name's Rob Bartlett," meaning like, "My name is Rob Bartlett," or did he say, "This is Rob Bartlett"?
Even I was like, what?
I don't know. Is there anything else I can be doing?
Well, I got Tony over here making lunch. Well, you're not doing much performing in the last few years. You really haven't done much. I know you were sick for a while. I don't really want to get
a little over a year ago, and that was not fun. COVID obviously was an issue.
Yeah. Are you missing it?
Not really, because the business has changed so much. The audiences have changed. How long have you been doing it, you guys?
30, little over 30.
Mark?
I'm at 20.
Okay, so I don't know if it's changed as dramatically for you guys, because I've been doing it,
35
years, and the business has changed so dramatically in terms. The comedy boom. It's been 2 comedy booms since I started. I rode the wave of the first one, and then just in time for the pitfall, I got Imus, and so that kind of got me through. And then there was this other comedy boom. But I noticed how much there was this whole thing with bringer shows, and then all of a sudden, there weren't as many comedy clubs, and then there was a market for people who would do your act, so they could hire them instead of hiring you because they could get them for half the price. That happened on the road a bit, and then there were just too many comedians and not enough clubs, and then just the whole demographic changed. It's like the audiences are so different now, and they're so bad. They're just, and especially after COVID, they're just so used to not being around other people. Nobody knows how to act in public anymore. It's weird. It's so weird.
It's funny because I don't really do many clubs anymore. In a year, I do very few clubs. I'll do.
You know what we say in the business? You know what that is? A sign. It's time to get out.
Why did I walk right into that? No, but I mean, as far as I'm doing theaters, a lot of you, and when this first started happening, I thought, oh my God, I'll never do that. And they're my favorite shows ever. Firehouses. Firehouses have the best rooms in the back. They have these amazing rooms, and they rent and they do shows. And you know what I found, Rob? When you're at a club, they kind of have this attitude of, all right, I had to come all the way here. I got to worry about DWI. Make me laugh. But when you go into like a theater or even these firehouses or even an Elks Club or something, everyone there is from the neighborhood, and they have that look of, hey, you came here for me. They have that feeling of, isn't this great? These guys are here and we're going to have a good time. And I just really like that.
You know the reason why firehouses are great audiences for you? They're used to disasters. That's how they make their living. Bet you they loved your theme song, "Burning Down the House."
You remember that, don't you?
Of course, because I was jealous that there was
the Richie Byrne show.
Byrne show.
What last time you were on, Tony fucked up.
Leave him alone.
We talked a lot more about the acting stuff, and it was really interesting. And you really seem, is that more your passion now? I mean, I know you're working with younger people and all of that.
It's what I had set out to do at the very beginning, was do acting. And so,
me too.
When I started doing Broadway and started doing TV and, the one or two movies I've done, I mean, that was really where I envisioned myself, where I wanted to be, it's where all my training was. And I'm teaching acting. I do like an audition workshop, and then I do coaching. I have a couple of students in Belfast, Ireland, that I work with once a week. And I just helped a girl who was auditioning for her college production of How to Succeed in Business without really trying. She was auditioning for Rosemary. And so I worked with her on her audition, and she got the part. So,
wow.
Which was kind of neat. And then
I saw you on Broadway in that.
Yeah, it was interesting working with Dan Radcliffe, because it was an entirely different level of, it was like I had kind of experienced a little bit of it when I did Odd Couple with Nathan Lane and Matthew Broderick, because they had their own little thing. But then when I did How to Succeed, as first was with Dan Radcliffe, and then it was with Nick Jonas when Dan left. The audiences were just amazing. They were just incredible. It was like sold out houses all the time. And then the last show we did was a matinee when we closed, and it was, of course, packed with Nick Jonas's fans. And the big 11 o'clock number in that show is Brotherhood of Man, and we'd done it on the Today Show. We did it on Letterman. We did it for the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. I mean, we did it a number of times. It was an incredible 11 o'clock number. Just one of those you get, the hairs stand up at the back of your neck. It was like one of those that just built and built and built. And,
that's what they call it, 11 o'clock number?
Yeah, because it happens about 11 o'clock before like midnight at the end of the show. It's usually the big number before it's all over.
You would think I'd know that. I don't.
So we did Brotherhood of Man for the audience, and Michael Urie was playing Bud, the really sneaky nephew of the boss. It was really great. Michael Urie is, first of all, unbelievably talented actor, but a really terrific person on top of it. And when the show was over, when the number was over, rather, we had to move the story along to change the scene with me addressing him and like telling everyone to get him out because he turns out to be the bad guy. You know, if you've seen it, you know the point I'm talking about. But the show stopped cold. We got a 15-minute standing ovation after the number. We couldn't move the story forward.
Brotherhood of Man.
After Brotherhood of Man was over. And it was like so funny because Yuri and I were like making eye contact across the stage from each other. And we realized we were going to be able to move the show along. So we were kind of like doing this little improv thing, like just miming with each other just to kind of keep the story going. And every time you'd try to start, there'd be another wave of, and it was
really,
we finally, it was great. It was
that must be an awesome feeling.
It was an incredible feeling. It really was. It was great. That's
Now,
the reason why you do live theater, you know?
See, how long were you in that show?
I was there for the whole run. I was there from, I think it was a year and a half. I think it was a year and a half. And it was great because I played two parts. I played Mr. Twimble, who was the head of the mailroom, and got to do a number with, you know, Dan and Nick, you know, as a little duet, which was great. And then Brotherhood of Man as another character, Wally Wamper, who was the CEO of the company at the end. And so I had, you know, my scene and my song in the first two scenes at the beginning of the show, and then I was in the last scene of the show.
Yeah,
I had the entire time in the middle to just sleep in my dressing room.
I did that in college. I played those two parts in college, and I remember going, "This is the greatest," because both roles are just so much fun and have such great songs.
Yeah,
and you're right. You have all this time in between to just sit there and bask in your glory if you want. You know.
Yeah, you get to do Company Way, and then you get to do Brotherhood of Man. It's like,
yeah.
Oh, we did it at the Tonys too, which was great because, you know, you're standing on stage and you're waiting for them to come back from commercial. And I'm looking at Robert De Niro and Al Pacino and all these people like sitting right in the first row, you know. It was like, oh, really kind of cool, you know.
That's cool, Rob.
It was neat. It was neat. It was really neat.
What was Larroquette like to work with?
Just a joy. He's so fucking funny.
He was so good at
this thing where after the first month or so, he knew he could do it. And so we used to have this little bit just before Brotherhood of Man where I would say something, he'd react to it, and he would change the way he reacted every time to try and make me laugh. And he almost got me once, but it was the hardest I've ever tried to keep from laughing because he was just so funny, because he'd make these faces or do something with his voice or just something that was different every night, every performance. It was really they had, and
then didn't Bo Bridges take over for him?
Yes, Bo Bridges took over for him when Nick took over for Dan. Bo Bridges took over for him, and he was a lot of fun too because I got to meet the dude when he came to see his brother in the show, which was kind of cool. They had announced the Outer Critics Circle Awards in between shows on a Wednesday, between matinee and an evening performance, and John and I would stand off stage because neither one of us were in the opening number. We would all kind of go out after before the number was over. We'd go out for the last part of the opening number, and so we would stand backstage during the overture, and we had this ritual where we would stamp our feet, and it's always stupid, you know, rituals and superstitions in the theater. Stamp our feet at a certain point in the overture. And he turns to me and says, "Congratulations," and I said, "Why?" He said, "For your nomination for the Outer Critics Circle Award." And I was flabbergasted just before we go out, and I'm actually getting choked up. I was like so moved, and it was so cool that he had acknowledged me, you know. Wow. And so the minute I'm done with Company Way, my scenes are over, I go running back up to my dressing room and I get on my computer and I'm looking up. I want to see my name in the list and my name isn't in the list of nominees. And then I notice, oh, it's Rob Ashford, the director. He was nominated. Rob Ashford, not Rob Bartlett. Rob Ashford for Best Director. No Rob Bartlett for Best Supporting, despite the fact that I was doing two separate roles, two scenes. So intermission comes, and Larroquette shows up at my dressing room. He goes, "I am so sorry. I am so sorry. I read it real quick, and I am so sorry." And we had a laugh about it. Next day, I show up in my dressing room, and there's a trophy. I forgot what they called it. I got it somewhere as the official Great Guy Award given to the biggest, funniest, whatever I've ever known. No kidding, John Larroquette. He gave me, was just a classy guy. I have found that to be true, no matter who it is, whether it's in TV or film or on Broadway. The bigger they are, it seems like the more down to earth they are. It's like when I did.
That's why Riccadonna's a dick.
Well, you got to be somebody to be somebody. When I did The Good Wife, it was 3 or 4 episodes, same character. And Juliana Margulies could not have been nicer, could not have been more welcoming, more, you okay? Do you want to try that again? Whatever you want. It was like, and then when I did Elementary, it was like, the people there could not be any nicer. I did my last scene in Elementary. I was a fill-in police captain for Aidan Quinn. Aidan Quinn had gotten shot at the end of the 6th season, and the 7th season was their last season. I played his old friend from the force years ago, who was coming in to fill in to run his squad and his own squad, Captain Dwyer. And I was like the no-nonsense guy, lifetime cop, just looking for retirement. And I did 5 episodes, and the last episode, it's revealed that I have sexually harassed one of the female cops. I don't know, I posted some joke or some picture of her in a bikini, whatever it was. And I had already been on warning for doing it once before, and Aidan Quinn knew that. And he found out that she was leaving, but she wouldn't say why she was leaving, and so he suspected me. So I'm having lunch at this cop bar, and he comes in, and he needs to know. He wants to know, is it true? And I lose it. I just say, I start really, I did your job, Tommy, and I did it. It's like pulling out all my acting muscles, and so go out, slam the door in my final scene. So when you're done on a set, when you've done your last, scene, when you've shot the last thing, the director or the assistant director will say, "Ladies and gentlemen, that is a wrap for Rob Bartlett." Or a series wrap or whatever it is. Episode wrap for Rob Bartlett. And then everybody, the crew and the extras and all that, everybody applauds. It's really just a nice little tribute.
Yeah.
And so I walk out of the cop. There's a cop bar on Queens Boulevard, I think, right by the 59th Street Bridge. And Aidan Quinn is standing at the edge of the curb, and he has arranged the wardrobe department, the hair and makeup department, most of the other actors who were on the set, all the grips, all the assistants, all the PAs, has them lined up on 2 sides from the door of the bar all the way around the corner, leading all the way to my trailer. And they were all,
wow.
That's just
awesome.
what you hope. It's what you hope that kind of stuff happens. That, you see these people, you get a good feeling about them, and you hope that it's going to be. And it was always just a great experience.
Is that something you think he does for a lot of actors, or was it because he knew you personally, or
he loved me? We had a real big brother, little brother relationship. We were special to each other,
like me and Mark.
I slept in his arms one afternoon. He held me, I suckled at his breast. It was a very special.
Speaking of which, Tony, it's almost nap time.
Would you leave him alone?
We suckle with each other.
Tony, you should just fucking quit. Just quit, in the middle, and then watch them try to push the buttons.
I think that was such a beautiful story.
It was.
We should wrap on that.
Yeah.
Rob Bartlett suckling on Benny from Benny and June's breast. That's what I'm going to picture. I hope you're all picturing the same at home.
That's the weirdest exit I've ever seen, Mark. Are you stoned? Are you stoned?
No, he's
Maybe.
loaded. He's been loaded since 10 o'clock this morning. He has bacon and eggs and then 2 bottles of Bushmills by the time he gets to his little studio.
Remember, all right. Well, I'm gonna do this right, folks. That was drinks, jokes, and storytelling.
I just gotta say, you guys, I break your balls, and that it's done with love. I've known you guys, I don't know how many years. Richie, you and I go way back, and Mark, I really only met you a couple of years ago, but you've been a great source of pleasure and fun, and I always feel honored that you include me as a guest every once in a while on the show, because I know it's not really easy to do this kind of stuff, week after week after week, and then try to be entertaining and bring it to the people, and while all the while you're trying to like have families and do stand up. But if there's one thing I got to say about you guys, it's that each one of
I knew that was coming. I knew he was going to do that.
He's so friggin' funny, dude.
He kills
He
me.
is just one of the funniest human beings I've literally ever met in my life. And we're comics. We've met so many comics, but that man is just so goddamn funny.